So, how does a failed science experiment, a creature with no soul, become a literal cosmic savior? Well, that is the incredible question we're going to dig into today. We're going to trace the wild transformation of one of comics' most complicated figures, all the way from his chaotic birth to his destiny as a messiah of the spaceways.
I mean, just look at this contrast right here. On one side, you have him, soulless, aimless, basically a failed experiment. And on the other, Adam Warlock, a messiah, a redeemer, a cosmic savior. And get this, they're the same being. So the real question is, how in the universe did this radical change actually happen?
All right, to really understand the Messiah, we first have to understand the monster. So let's rewind and go all the way back to the beginning, to this chaotic and totally purposeless first Genesis. This is where the whole story of a flawed ideal kicks off.
Yeah, him wasn't born from some noble idea. He was the end product of the Beehive, this shady group of scientists with a pretty audacious goal, nothing less than total world domination. He was supposed to be their prototype, their ultimate weapon for an army of perfect beings. You know, what's so wild about this timeline is how it just maps out his violent and, frankly, aimless start. It's really unique. His creation was actually detailed an entire issue before he even showed up. Then he pops out of his cocoon, immediately destroys the guys who made him, and then, a couple years later, he just picks a fight with Thor for basically no reason. It's pure, undirected chaos. And that is such a key point. That initial violence, it wasn't evil. It was just the terrified, instinctual lashing out of a brand new consciousness, totally horrified by the world it was suddenly thrown into. I mean, can you imagine waking up with all that power, but with zero context, zero understanding? Now, behind the scenes, there was this creed of tug-of-war going on. The legendary Jack Kirby, he wanted him to be this super complex figure, an embodiment of objectivist philosophy. But his editor, Stan Lee, kind of simplified it, turning him into a more familiar, misunderstood monster. And that one change basically stripped the character of all that intended depth, leaving him as this, this powerful, empty vessel. So that's where we leave him at the end of his first act. He's this perfect, living paradox. Godlike power, but absolutely no purpose. He's just adrift in the cosmos, a being with limitless potential just waiting for a reason to exist. But hey, this is comics, right? And no potential goes untapped for long. That empty vessel is about to get filled in a big way. So let's dive into the character's second birth, a complete reinvention, an apotheosis that's finally going to give him a profound purpose. And the spark for this massive reinvention, it came from a pretty unexpected place. The 1970s rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar. Yep, Marvel editor Roy Thomas saw this unused, wandering character of him and just had this epiphany. He decided to completely remold him into a superhero messiah. The instrument for this incredible change is a character called the High Evolutionary. He's this godlike being who stumbles upon the drifting cocoon, and he doesn't see a monster, he sees a perfect seed. He becomes this cosmic gardener, a cultivator looking to save his grand, faltering experiment. And you can see here, this whole transformation is so deliberate, it's almost like a sacred ritual. The High Evolutionary doesn't just wake him up, he anoints him. He gives him a name, Adam Warlock. He grants him the soul gem, which is like a physical guide for a being that never had a soul. And then finally, he gives him a divine mission. And this right here is the game changer. Warlock is no longer aimless. His whole purpose now is to save Counter-Earth, this paradise the High Evolutionary created that has fallen into deep corruption. He's sent to be its redeemer. The soulless monster now has a soul and a sacred duty.
Okay, and this is where that whole messianic metaphor, the one inspired by a rock opera, becomes absolutely undeniable. Warlock's journey on this fallen world starts to mirror one of the most famous stories ever told. Yeah, let's just call it what it is, because the creative team was not being subtle. The entire narrative was intentionally built as a direct parallel to the biblical story of Jesus Christ, creating what fans would later nickname the Space Jesus arc.
I mean, this table just lays it all out, clear as day. The parallels are just unmistakable. You've got the deity figure, the gardener, sending his chosen son to redeem a fallen world. That's followed by a selfless death, a spontaneous resurrection in a cave, and then a final ascension back into the cosmos. It's the entire Passion play, just retold with cosmic superheroes.
And his journey on Counter-Earth? Man, it just ticked every single one of those boxes. He wasn't sent as a conqueror. He was a shepherd. He fought a satanic-like adversary called the Man-Beast. He faced betrayal. He suffered. And he ultimately died for the world he was sent to save, only to be reborn, wiser and stronger than ever before.
So let's pull back for a second and just look at the whole incredible picture. This journey took a misunderstood creation, really just an editorial afterthought, and completely transformed him into a lasting, complex myth. You see, this wasn't just some simple retcon or a costume change. This was a complete re-engineering of the character's narrative DNA. Roy Thomas took a powerful but empty character and filled that void with one of the oldest, most powerful stories in human culture, turning a simple monster trope into a genuinely complex archetype. And that just leaves us with this fascinating question to chew on, right? Adam Warlock has always been incredibly powerful, but his story suggests that maybe a character's greatest power isn't their physical strength, but the strength of the story they embody. So what do you think really makes a hero immortal? Their power or their purpose?